Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Boston Balling. I'm your host, Gabby Hurlbut. Hope you're all having a great week. It's Super Bowl week, so that's exciting. Should be a good game this weekend. I think it's going to be a really close game. So that should be fun to watch. I know Rihanna's doing the halftime show, so that should be fun as well. Hope you all have fun plans for that. I'm excited to bring you another episode of the show. There's a lot of NBA talk today. Trade deadline obviously was today at 3 p.m. So a lot of moves were made. Excited to kind of have a conversation with you guys about it and talk about it. I have a really cool guest with me on this episode. He's super talented, does a lot of really, really good NBA coverage, is a host of the First to the Floor Celtics podcast. Jake Issenberg, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Gabby, how are you going? I'm happy to be here.
I am doing really well, and I really appreciate that you joined me on the show.
Oh, I'm excited. It's a good day. A lot of sport. Yeah, Super Bowl. I'm keen. I'm hoping Rihanna opens with "Run This Town" in
That'd be
the Super
awesome.
Bowl. That's one of my favorites. But yeah, trade deadline. Like I'm based here in Australia, so I've been up since 6 a.m. Sydney time or 5 a.m. Sydney time, honestly, to get my head around all of the trades. But honestly, this is like Christmas for me. This is my favorite time of year. All of the trades. Give it to me. Give me as many as you can. It's the best.
Yeah, right. It's definitely a fun time, especially the specific day that the
Yeah.
trade deadline is, because that's always when a bunch of moves are made, and a
Oh yeah.
bunch of teams are really just taking that opportunity and being like, we have a deadline on this day, so you always see those moves being brought out at that time. And I know a lot of people would say on Twitter, that they turned on Shams notifications
Oh
and
yeah.
they turned on Woj's notifications because they were like, I need to keep up with everything that's going on.
Oh yeah. I always have Shams and Woj notifications on at all times. Any 24/7, 365. I'm in there. I was finishing work like last night, 6 p.m. and that's when the Kevin Durant trade came through. It's wild. It's so interesting to me, the trade deadline. Like they have all season to do make some moves, do whatever. But this week, this day, it all just comes to a head. And like this week was wild. I mean, as Celtics fans, I'm sure we're all very happy to see the implosion of the Brooklyn Nets.
Yes.
Um, that was
100%.
quick. That was quick.
Yep, and it's interesting you say that because that's definitely one of the things I wanted to bring up was just the fact that they really were set on going all in to get KD in the first place and going all in to get Harden. And then look where that, look where that all got them. And it's like, okay, so now you have the Kyrie situation. Let's see what happens with the Mavs. Because I personally feel like Kyrie kind of creates drama wherever he goes. And
Oh yeah.
for me personally, like I like Luca as a player, and it would be tough to see that affect his play just because I feel like obviously us as Celtics fans, we've experienced the Kyrie
Oh
situation. So
yes,
I
we
feel
have.
like it's tough for me to feel like that's gonna work for them, to
I
be
cannot.
honest.
I cannot believe that the Mavs have made this move. This is the decision. This is the all in move, or not maybe not all in, but like this is a big move to give up Finney Smith, Dinwiddie, an unprotected
Yeah.
2029, to invite the infection, the murderer, into your house. Like this is three teams now. Like yes, they won the championship with the Cavs, but Kyrie didn't want any part of being with one of the best players of all time and a consistent championship contender. Didn't want to be on one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference and a team that was going to contend for the next 5 plus 10 years in the Celtics. And then the Nets, he finally gets to choose his own place, choose his best mate Kevin Durant, chooses the coach Steve Nash. But no, 4 years later, he played a total of 74 games with Kevin Durant, not even a full season of Kevin Durant, that including the playoffs. One playoff series win that was against the Boston Celtics, against a Jaylen Brownless Boston Celtics when we had Shemi Ojale, Carson Edwards, Kemba Walker on one knee, Tristan Thompson. one of the worst Celtics rosters in recent memory.
I
That
was gonna
that's the
say,
one
good
team.
time.
Oh, not a good time. That's the one. That's the one playoff series that they've won, and now it's over. Kevin Durant's in Phoenix. Kyrie Irving's in Dallas. Um, Dallas.
So
Yeah. Go on.
no, it's such a good point that you make with that too, though, because on the other side of that is the KD situation. And I know in the off season, obviously there were talks about Brooklyn moving KD then before this season started. And there were Celtics fans who were
Mhm.
like, we should go for KD. And I was one of the people, I said it on my show and I said it
Yep.
multiple times on Twitter that I don't want Kevin Durant in a Celtics uniform because I think he just is, first of all, I mean, it's hard for him to stay healthy now at this point in his career. I
Mhm.
mean, he's injured quite a bit. Second of all, it seems like he alone creates drama where he is and wants to walk away from teams that he's on when things don't go well. And I was like, would you really want to give up Jaylen Brown for somebody like that? So I was pretty vocal about the Celtics not getting Kevin Durant, and I didn't want him then, and I still am happy that they didn't get him now because I don't think he really fits in with what the Celtics are trying to do. But if you look at Brooklyn, it's like, yeah, I mean, they gave up a lot of young talent to build this super team that they had with
Yeah.
Kyrie, KD, and Harden. And
Yep.
now look at where that team is at now. And it's really looking bad on them what they did because now they have to really work to rebuild that team. And obviously they made some other moves at the trade deadline to kind of put them in that direction. But it really is just not good for them. I mean, it's obviously good for us because it
Oh
takes
yeah.
kind of takes away a team that the Celtics have to worry about down the road. But I kind of saw all of this coming. I mean, with KD, it was only a matter of time before he left Brooklyn. I think, in the last week or so, there was, they had that bad loss to the Celtics. And then KD or Kyrie requests a trade. They trade him, they grant him that wish. I'm like, I don't know. Like a lot of people thought that KD wouldn't be moved by the
Yeah.
deadline, but I was like, Phoenix really wants him. He really wants to go there. I feel like they're going to figure something out because what's the point of them keeping KD right now if they know that they probably can't contend at this point when they can get something for him?
I'm really surprised. Like, I'm really surprised that they decided to move him at this deadline with this package. And from what I was reading, like from the reports today, it sounds like they didn't really speak to a lot of other teams. It was like
Oh yeah.
we spoke to the Suns, and we didn't really entertain any other offers. And it's like, what are you doing? This is Kevin Durant. You have to have a bidding war. And if the
Yeah.
bidding war doesn't happen at the deadline, he's under contract for 3 more years. Like, why are you not waiting until the offseason to find out? What's the Pelicans offer? Can you get Brandon Ingram? Do the Celtics get back involved? Like there's any other like the if you're a Cavs like Evan Mobley, like who's the one potential star that you can get back for Kevin Durant? And I love Mikal Bridges, like really nice player, really good role player.
Mhm.
Um, Superstar type role player, like can be a guy that's on a starting team for a championship roster. Like I really believe that for him, but that's not a guy that you want headlining a Kevin Durant package. You want to get back a Jaylen Brown, Brandon Ingram. You want to get a guy that like has either made some All Star games, potential to make some All Star games. It sounds like they just pulled the trigger. They wanted to be done with it, which I understand. Like,
That's what I think. Yeah. I think it's
yeah,
ultimately he said he wanted to go there. And I think it didn't seem like he really was interested in going to a lot of other places. And I agree with you. I think that the Nets were probably just like, whatever, like we're over this situation. So let's just do it.
yeah, I think, yeah, coming to work every day, that's probably something that they wanted to actually enjoy after the last 4 years. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure it sounded like a good idea bringing in Kyrie and KD. Like whatever Kyrie brings, it'll be worth it because we're getting Kevin Durant, one of the best players in the NBA. Yeah, a quality of life not so fun when everybody's just, um, you know, drama every day behind the scenes, the anti-Semitic stuff, the vaccine stuff. It's always something. Like I was personally excited to see what the Nets looked like now that Kyrie was gone, I think that I didn't think they were going to be able to win the East with the roster that they had. But the defensive lineups with Dorian Finney-Smith, Dinwiddie can take some of that like scoring load from Kyrie. They didn't have the ceiling. As much of a loser as Kyrie can be, still an elite player, and their ceiling to win a championship, I think you could at least picture it. But with that new roster, I didn't quite see that. But I thought that would be fun. I thought Katie would see, the roster and be like, we can at least, be competitive, maybe make the second round. But I guess, he's 34 years old. He wants to win a title again. So, and pushing to Phoenix, I didn't expect that to be the deal that got done. But the West got, if you're a Nuggets fan, if you're a Memphis fan, if you're a Warriors fan, this is not the news that you wanted to wake up to today. Kevin Durant and Devin Booker as a duo in the Western Conference, with Chris Paul kind of being able to take a step back, and Kevin Durant can take that load, because the question with Chris Paul is he always breaks down in the playoffs, the health stuff. But now you've got Durant and Booker to take all of that load. Chris Paul's going to be wheeling and dealing. Ayton, proven to be a solid playoff guy as well. They're going to be dangerous to get out of the West.
Oh, 100%. I mean, they're actually now, I mean, their odds increased significantly today once they got KD. I mean, I like their chances to come out of the West this year now. And I actually think that KD is a better fit in Phoenix than he was in Brooklyn. I think that, he kind of has more that he can work with there. And I think the combination of, like you said, Devin Booker's there. And I think with Chris Paul, obviously, he's a great player. But I think having somebody who can kind of be more of a leader for that team than him might actually be a better position for him to be in than where he's at right now. So I actually think for Phoenix, it's probably a good fit for KD. I think that like it's more likely to work with them than it was with Brooklyn, just because of the makeup of players they have there and the personalities they have there. And I think Chris Paul probably, I mean, we're not sure exactly how he feels about it, but I would imagine that he's probably happy about it.
I'm super excited to get the post game interviews, or the interviews at the next practice of the Phoenix Suns guys get out. But look, Chris Paul's 38. Like time's ticking. And Phoenix with their new owner coming in, there was always like these new owners want to come in, make a big splash. But you kind of have to make the move now. Like if you want to win with Chris Paul as one of your best players, it kind of needs to be now. I agree as far as personality goes. I don't know if we can curse on this show, but
yeah.
My dad has a no dickhead policy on his teams where possible, and that was why he was like anti KD trade. But no Kyrie, the king of the dickheads. Not in Phoenix. Chris Paul, he hasn't got a ring, but he's been getting W's consistently for his whole career. I love the way that Devin Booker approaches the game. It's been a
he's
bump.
One of my favorite players in the league, actually.
Oh my gosh, he is fantastic. It's great to have him back in the mix, out of injury. So just as far as pure basketball, being a fan of the game, to see Booker, Chris Paul, and Kevin Durant get together, that offense has the potential to be really, really dangerous. And the mentality of Chris Paul and Devin Booker, they're on no business. Monty Williams, coach of the year, good culture. Hopefully, you can get more buy-in from DeAndre Ayton, because I know that relationship's been a little bit rocky. But you get Kevin Durant, everybody inside the building, they know it's title time. We're pushing to win a title right now. The Suns, when healthy, they had so many injuries this year. Cam Thomas, Devin Booker. Now getting healthy, getting Kevin Durant back, they're not that far back in the West standings. The West is completely wide open. They're a few games out of the 4 seed. They can still easily get home court advantage in the first round. And Denver's still yet to kind of prove that they can go deep in the playoffs and win and get out of the West.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I think with the Suns prior to getting KD, I would have been like, all right, yeah, they're a good team. They're one of the top teams in the West. Whether they have the depth to be able to go far in the playoffs, I'm not really convinced. But getting KD, I do feel like puts them among the top contenders in the West. I think that they are at a point now where for them in the situation they're in, I actually think KD might bring good value to that team. And I mean, not that he didn't provide value to the Nets in some way, but I mean,
big time. Yeah. I mean, he
yeah,
was carrying that team. Yeah.
yeah, it's but the off the court stuff was what kind of made it just kind of undesirable at the end for them to still have him. Which is exactly why I said I don't want the Celtics having him. When you have, because I think KD is better off on a team where there aren't young superstars that are kind of the face of the franchise. Because if KD came to the Celtics, like what exactly would his position have been? Because, you have Jason Tatum, who is the star of your franchise, and he's obviously much younger than KD and hasn't even really hit his prime yet. And then you have Jalen, who you probably would have had to get rid of to get him. Yeah. So I think KD needs to be on a team where he can kind of be more of that guy. And I think the Phoenix situation allows him really to be that.
Well,
I think Chris Paul is okay with that, to be honest with you. I think Chris Paul is better off not being in the position where he is the guy.
Yeah, no, and Booker's obviously a star as well, but I think personality-wise, he has the humility and as much as I, didn't really want the Celtics to trade for Durant, if Durant had come to the Celtics, I think guys like Tatum and Booker, there are certain types of superstars where they have the humility. They just want to play basketball and win. Kind of the opposite of Kyrie Irving, where
honestly though,
they can make it work. They can build chemistry on the court with kind of anybody. Like Tatum's won every year of the league, every year he's been in the league. But depending on what the roster looks like, I think that's what I love so much about Tatum's game is that he can fit anywhere. You can build the roster in several different ways, and he's going to be really, really successful, and the team is going to be really, really successful. So the Celtics were going to be a championship contender with Durant, without Durant.
Well, that's why I feel like they shouldn't have they shouldn't have gotten him because, I mean, Jalen as well. Like, I mean, he's young too, and I feel like having that 1-2 punch for, I mean, hopefully longer term. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with Jalen? That's something that's still to be seen, whether he comes back here or not. Hopefully he does. But I see the potential of that to be much longer term than getting rid of some of that young core to get KD and risk the injuries that he has. And just the history that he's had with the teams that he's been on. It was hard for me to get behind that. But like you said, I think they would have been championship contenders regardless because they would have been able to figure it out anyway. But we'll see what happens with the Suns. I think they are in a really good spot now. I think other teams in the West should be worried about the Suns now. And I mean, like we said, Devin Booker is an awesome player. He's a really likable player too. I think he's a fun player to watch. And CP3, I've been rooting for him to get a ring for a while. So, I mean, we'll see what happens there. But another thing that I think is interesting to touch on is the Lakers because, obviously we all watched LeBron break the all-time scoring record the other night. That was actually pretty cool to see.
It was super cool.
And it was interesting that they stopped the game to do a ceremony on it. And I was like, there's 10 seconds left still in the third quarter. If I'm OKC, I'm like, we're winning this game right now. Like you're gonna stop our momentum to do the ceremony. But it was pretty cool kind of to see that because obviously Kareem's record was there for a long time. And I don't think a lot of people, myself included, thought that would ever be broken. But the craziest thing about it is that LeBron still has time left.
Oh, man.
So the more that he plays, the harder it's going to be for anybody to break his record after this. So that's why I feel like people should definitely be grateful that we were able to see this type of history happen.
Oh, this I would be absolutely shocked if this record gets broken in our lifetime. Maybe once we're no longer on this planet, there's some alien that comes down and does it. Just between like how LeBron came out of high school, so he didn't have the college years, um, and he has been so durable his whole career. Like Tatum's really durable, but like to not, and he's gonna, Tatum's probably gonna, hopefully crack that top 10 of all time scorers,
Yeah.
if he keeps this up. But to get into that 40,000 point range, especially like, as you said, LeBron's still going, like he's still a top 10 player in the NBA. The fact that he needed 36 points to break the record, and
Just
it was,
casually puts up 36 points
yeah, yeah.
that night.
I did unfortunately bet him to score 40 points, and Russell Westbrook really had it out for me that day. Would not pass LeBron the ball down the stretch there, but but he rolls out of bed, and it's like, yeah, he's averaging 30 a game at age 38, and like as much as we all hate the Lakers as Celtics fans. It is kind of sad, like to see them down in the 13th seed and be wasting this like late twilight prime of LeBron's career, where he could still be a really valuable piece on like a championship contender, on like at least a playoff team that's like a 6 seed, a 5 seed, a team that's like going to 7 games in the second round. We all want to see LeBron actually be in those moments. Like if we don't get to see LeBron playing in the playoffs, that's going to be, as much as I love to see the Lakers and LeBron quietly, considering how much pain he's caused Celtics fans.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, throughout our lives. I think if you're a basketball fan, like you want to see, the one of the greatest players of all time competing in the playoffs. And so with this trade, though, they could get into the mix here. They're not too far out of the play-in and then the 6th seed.
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, they seem to want to go all in this trade deadline and be like, we're serious about contending based on the moves they made. I think it was a really good move by them to ship out Westbrook. I don't think it was working with him there. And I think they realized that they could, get some value for him because he's Russell Westbrook. But I don't think that the situation was the best for him in that they realized it wasn't going to get them anywhere if they kept him. So I do think that shipping him off at the trade deadline was a smart move by them.
Yeah. Needed to get him out of there. Russell Westbrook is, especially at this point in his career, like I think, he's definitely become underrated as far as his career goes. Like prime Westbrook was a serious force, especially in the regular season. But when you're trying to win in the playoffs or win a championship, he's never been a guy that's improved his play when he gets to the playoffs, even when he was in his prime. I'm surprised that the Lakers were able to get as much as they were from both Westbrook and that draft pick that they got, top 4 protected, from our old friend Danny Ainge from the Utah Jazz. Danny Ainge, I don't know, like getting soft. I'm surprised that he was only able to.
This is uncharacteristic of him, to be honest.
Yeah, right. Like to only get 1 draft pick from the Lakers. It's top 4 protected, and Beasley's a good player. Vanderbilt was like coveted by the Sixers and a bunch of other teams. And then D'Angelo Russell, I mean, that's probably the part of the trade I don't love the most, but he's just as effective as Russell Westbrook. And what the Lakers need is shooting, and that's what Russell Westbrook's not giving you. So you bring in D'Lo and Malik Beasley, who he can really shoot it. Like he'll give you 40% from 3 on 8 attempts a game. Like he gets him up and gets him at a high clip, off screens, catch and shoot, pull up. He can make some tough shots. So. And then the defensively, like they've struggled. And so to bring in a guy like Vanderbilt, who in theory, when you pair with Anthony Davis, who, in theory, one of the best defensive players in the NBA, not if you watched the Thunder and the Lakers game the other day. It looks like Anthony Davis was like half asleep watching that game. I don't know what.
Yeah, that was kind of weird, but
very odd performance from him. And that's just kind of the story on Anthony Davis. On one hand, you're going to get a stretch of 10 games where he's giving you 32 and 15 boards and 3 blocks. And then a game where they really needed to win. Like the Thunder and them are neck and neck in the standings, and the Thunder don't have any big men. And you're supposed to be one of the most dominant big men in the league. You don't give them anything. But again, in theory, Anthony Davis plus Vanderbilt as like your 4-5 has the potential to be like a really solid, defensive front court.
Yeah, exactly. And this is another team that falls under the example that that whole big three mentality doesn't always work because they tried to formulate their big three with the combination of LeBron, AD, and Westbrook. And look at where that's gotten them. So that whole mentality in general has never sat well with me. I don't think that that's how teams should go about building championship caliber teams. I do think the Lakers, based on what they did do at this deadline, I mean, they shipped out Patrick Beverley too. I think that was actually good for them as well, because I don't think that he was providing the value that they needed him to in order to get over this hump of this, these struggles that they're facing this year in general. And I also think that when it comes to the Lakers, like, you have, arguably the best player maybe of all time playing for your team. That whole debate, that's definitely a topic that is for another day,
Yeah.
because there's obviously so much back and forth on that still. But I mean, what he's done for basketball definitely obviously puts him even more in the conversation after the other night. So if you have somebody like that on your team and you're trying to build around him and it's not working and you're trying to get these high caliber guys that can help you with that, and your team is pretty exceptionally bad to start the season this year and hasn't really been able to be successful since 2020, which I don't want to say that that was not a real season, but like there was a lot of interesting things that happened that season to make it unique,
Oh,
and so it's
the bubble season, look, it counts. The Lakers have their 12 titles. I'm not counting the Minneapolis ones, that's for sure. But look, Anthony Davis, the issue with Anthony Davis is he can't stay healthy. LeBron James getting older. You know what's really helpful is when he gets like 3 to 5 months off to rest, and then the only thing you have to do is play 8 games and then the playoffs. That's really helpful when you're trying to win a title and you have an injury-prone superstar and a 36-year-old superstar. In a normal season, you've got to go through the NBA grind. So yes, the bubble title counts, but there were some factors that definitely indexed highly on helping specifically the Lakers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. And I think when it comes to the Lakers now, I do firmly believe as of today, they're in a better place to be able to actually contend than they were prior to the deadline. I think the makeup of players they have now make more sense from a chemistry standpoint and working with what they're trying to do in their system. So, obviously they're not in a great position right now, but I would not rule them out to land, a decent playoff seeding when that time comes. I mean, it's crazy that there's really not that many games left in the regular
Yeah.
season. I always get to this point in the season, every single year this happens, where I'm like, wow, this flew by. Like, we don't have that much left of the regular season. Happens every single year. But I think that the Lakers tried to make the most of the deadline. I do think that they made good moves. I think that they will be a team ultimately that ends up in contention in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on this deal. Yeah, I think this is going to have a really big impact. And I think chemistry wise, we had the reports of Westbrook and Darvin Ham getting into it at halftime of the LeBron record breaking game. And it's like if you're and LeBron's been in the media all week talking about how he wished he traded for Kyrie Irving. Well, there's only one way you trade for Kyrie Irving, and that's when you trade out Russell Westbrook. So it's
Yep.
like, yeah, if I would be pissed off too if I was Russell Westbrook. Like I totally get it. So they need to get him out. Not on court fit terrible, locker room vibes also terrible. So you get the shakeup of the vibes. You get a much cleaner, a much deeper roster. I would not be surprised to see them make a push. They need Anthony Davis to stay healthy though.
Yep.
But even
Absolutely.
they do have some pieces now where they can kind of survive without him. I'm blown away by LeBron. Like the fact that he's able to carry like this roster is awful, and the fact that he's able to like carry this team to, and I know they're the 13th seed, but they could easily push into that playoff range. And the West, like outside of the Nuggets and now the Suns, I don't. And if the Warriors can get healthy outside of those teams, like I don't really see a team that LeBron would go into and feel, scared,
No, yeah, I mean, I don't think he in particular is really scared of anybody. And that's just how he's wired, I think. But
Mm.
even after the game, they were trying to ask him, oh, like what do you think you have left in the tank? Like, do you like how much longer do you foresee yourself playing? And he didn't even like flinch at the question. He was just like, oh yeah, like I think I have a few more years left
Yeah.
in me. And I was like, wow, good for you. Like, good for you. Like, I mean, he hasn't really shown much that he's slumping or doesn't have it anymore. So it's like, why not
No.
keep playing?
Oh my god! I mean, look, I'm sure you've got a bunch of Patriots fans as well, and on this podcast, like,
Yep.
it, we all love Tom Brady, and it's been I'm blown away by what Tom Brady's been able to do. LeBron now late 30s. I'm a surfer. Kelly Slater, he's still winning events on the World Surf Tour at like age 49. Like
Athletes like that, it's crazy.
it's
It's so
awesome.
crazy.
I was
Yeah.
so yeah, like LeBron, like being a top 10 player this year, still averaging 30 points per game, like he's going to have a slow decline. Like he's always going to be 6'9", really strong and a genius basketball player. Like as he declines, I would love to see him turn into, as he's 42 years old, can LeBron be, a six man of the year, an elite Ricky Rubio type? I would love. Yeah, I hope I love to see these guys keep pushing it because it's more fun when they're still playing. Like as I know, Brady wasn't at his peak anymore, but I love the NFL more when he's still in it. I like the NBA.
Mhm.
Like LeBron's going to leave a massive void when he leaves the NBA. Like
I was just
we,
thinking that
yeah,
too. The other night when we were watching that ceremony, I was like, this is going to be weird when he's not playing anymore. It's
yeah,
just weird.
like yeah. He's been part of like my basketball consciousness for like he came into the league when I was 10 and like, that was when I really started getting I loved LeBron when he first came into the league and played for Cleveland. And then he had the whole decision thing and then started kicking the crap out of the Celtics. And I was less of a LeBron fan.
Yeah, right. Honestly, me
Yeah,
too. I'm definitely with you on that. It's like,
yeah,
yeah, right. I'm not a fan. This needs to stop. But
yeah. This hurts. I was very happy to see him go to the Western Conference.
yeah, right. Because I was like, okay, now I don't have to worry about the guy as much anymore.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, no, I mean, the Lakers definitely are in a good place now. I think a much better place than they were up
yeah,
to this point. So, obviously, as much as I hope they don't succeed because I'm a Celtics
of
fan, I
course.
do think they're in a better place now. But now we obviously have to talk about the team that we're really here for,
Woo.
which is the Boston Celtics. I mean, obviously, they've had a great season so far. You know, they're the best team in basketball right now, record wise, even though they've had some injuries and they've had players who have been missing time. I think it was the game that they got Rob back, I think was fantastic. They, have him back finally now, which is really nice.
Yeah,
Um,
but then he's out last night. It's like we can't string
that's
these games together.
yeah, so then that is the whole thing about the Celtics right now. And so basically last night I was saying I think, big man depth is kind of a huge thing for the Celtics heading into this trade deadline before the trade deadline ends, is they should get somebody else at the big man spot because, no offense to Al, but age for one, and also like he does sit one of the two nights of a back to back every time.
Yep.
So we can't rely on him consistently. And Rob, like you just said, the injuries are a problem. And I think when Rob's in the game, it does make a difference on
Oh,
both ends of the
massive.
floor for
Yeah.
them. But the problem again is how reliable is that? So, Brad Stevens goes out and he gets some big man depth in Mike Muscala, which is actually good. I personally like the trade
Oh yeah.
because when you look at the trade at face value, it's like Justin Jackson and 2 second round picks. I'm fine with that because what was Justin
Nothing.
Jackson going to do for the Celtics future anyway? I think that he obviously, he wasn't playing a lot, and I think that's because the Celtics have a lot of talent already ahead of him and they didn't really need him, as bad as that sounds. But
No,
I
definitely
think
didn't. He was terrible. He was
yeah,
terrible.
I think it, if he can go somewhere else on a team that's looking for a lot of young talent where he can get a chance to kind of develop his game, I think that's kind of a spot he needs to be in. So I'm looking at it as, he didn't provide any value to the Celtics right now. So shipping out him and a couple second round picks to get somebody who can really provide you depth at that big man position is a win for Brad Stevens in my book, because
Oh
I
yeah.
think that that was their biggest need at the deadline as it was. They arguably could have made another move, but I think
Mhm.
that they addressed their biggest priority without having to give up a lot for him. And that, to me, for Brad Stevens is a win.
Brad Stevens, I love. He is so good at his
Yeah,
job. Like
honestly, I love
he's so good at his job. Amazing coach. But he has been arguably the best GM in the NBA
him.
since coming to the Celtics to
He's
completely
better in this position than as a coach.
unbelievable. Like,
Yeah.
we I touched on briefly that roster that had Carson Edwards and Tristan Thompson and Shemi Ojale. Like the roster that he's put together in like 2 years since then is unbelievable. And what I really firstly, good trade. You gave up, basically nothing. A 2029 second round pick, and then your worst of the two second round picks you have this year. Like compared to what some of the other um trades that were going out today, like Thomas Bryant goes for 3 second round picks. That's they're similar value players, but you give up less picks. That's a win. Brad constantly is winning these little trades, like a Brad Stevenism that he always used to say is don't hit home runs, hit singles. And this is like the definition of hitting a single. Um,
It's a good
what I
one.
like about it and what I'm excited for is that this feels like kind of a replacement for Gallinari. And so we're, 6'11" big man can shoot it. We're going to get to see what the vision that Brad had for Gallinari in this offense and on this team looks like, because Gallinari has there's a lot of overlapping skills between the two. So we're going to get to see what that was supposed to look like. He has a team option for next year. So if the Celtics want to keep him for another year, that seems to be another thing that Brad likes to do when trading for guys, making sure they have years left on their deal. Another good thing, keep the asset on the roster. There's a lot of good numbers I've been getting into since we traded for him. Like people kind of assume, 6'11" white guy, probably not that good at defense, but there's a lot of pretty solid defensive numbers out there, like for Muscala with defending the rim. And you see last night, right? Perfect example. Look at what Blake Griffin was able to do to the Sixers.
I was
When
so pumped about Blake
How
Griffin when
good,
he started, and I was getting so excited. I was like, "Let's go, Blake!
dude.
This is your time." Like he was on fire last night, and I was like, "This is so good for him. Like this is so cool." Because obviously, when they got Blake Griffin, it was like, yeah, from a veteran standpoint, he's good for this team. From leadership perspective and his experience, but obviously they didn't get him expecting him to get a lot of minutes. But when he's out there and he's making an impact, it makes me so happy.
Oh my god. He is the lord of the vibes. Like he's come in at a bunch of different times this year. The Raptors game on the road on a back-to-back, he was huge when he started. There's been lots of different moments throughout the season where Blake Griffin's helped us get a win. And last night he hits 5 threes. The Sixers just don't guard him. And he's like, well, I'm Blake Griffin. By the way, my career high for threes in a game is 9. I
He's
can
like,
hit
I'm still
3 point.
here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You guys
Jeff
are
and
forgetting about me, but I'm here.
yeah, dude. And Mike Muscala, he's a dead eye shooter. Like he's
Yep.
shooting 40% on good volume threes. Like per 36 minutes, he's 8.2 threes per 36. Like he gets them up. He can hit them off movement, coming off screens and stuff. The pick and pop that we've been killing the NBA with Al Horford over the past 5 years, whether it's Tatum, Marcus Smart, going back to Kemba, Kyrie Irving. Now we add another weapon like that. As you said, Al's not playing back to backs. You bring in a guy that can fill that stretch 5 option at 6'11" and really juice the offense for nothing. It's a really nice move. And I think I would have liked them to make another move for a wing. But it doesn't look like the market was really there, and now we'll start to look towards the buyout market, but we'll get there.
Yep, I was just going to bring up the buyout market too, because I think, they nobody thought or expected them, as they shouldn't, to make a lot of aggressive moves at the trade deadline because they didn't need to. They're already the best team in the Eastern Conference, no less the
Yeah.
NBA right now. So they didn't need to be aggressive and give up all these assets for people to help put the team over the top because they already are at the point where they are able to, be better than the other good teams. So I like what they did because it was definitely a very, good move in terms of he didn't have to give up anybody who really provides value to the team,
Yeah.
even off the bench. Because I know some names were being talked about, like Peyton Pritchard maybe being
Hmm.
moved, or, you know, Grant Williams because he's been in a slump lately. But then I'm like Pritchard, like when they need him to play well, he's been
Yeah.
playing well. Like I don't think Brad would want to move him necessarily because of the value he does provide when he's playing. I still stand by this, and I've been saying this for a while that I think he should play a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think he has more potential than what he's able to really show, but that's another topic too.
Yeah.
But I think overall, like they did what they needed to do to fill their biggest glaring need right now. So I was going to go into, how active do you think they're going to be on the buyout market? Because I do think that is a big opportunity for the Celtics to maybe fill a lot of other smaller holes without having to give up people.
Oh, yeah. They're going to be very active, I would
I think so
assume.
too. Yeah.
And what's good about the Celtics, they have the a 3.2 million disabled player exception from the Gallinari injury, which they can offer to players on the buyout market. So that's going to give them an advantage against other teams that are only able to offer the minimum. I did see today that Phoenix has the mid-level exception they didn't use in the offseason. So they will have the ability to offer 6 million to one buyout player, or they could split it into $2-3 million dollar salaries. But other than that, from what I can tell, it seems like the Celtics are going to be able to offer, on the higher end of money, and then also obviously offer them the chance to compete for a title. And that's, you got to think puts the Celtics at, kind of towards the front of the line of the buyout market. The tricky part with the buyout market is we don't have a really good sense of who's going to be bought out and
Yeah.
quite yet. So
That's probably it.
yeah, so
It's
that's gonna,
more, it's
yeah,
very much a like you have to wait it out type of
yeah.
situation and kind of see who's available.
Especially right now after the deadline has just ended. Like I think we got a report, Reggie Jackson's going to be bought out by Charlotte, but that he doesn't. That's not the type of player we need in Boston. We want like a 6'5" to 6'8" kind of wing guy that can play defense
Yep.
and take some of the load off the Jays. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, because honestly, what still kind of concerns me is when Tatum's not on the floor and the numbers that the team is putting up when he's not on the floor. And I think they are starting to kind of show improvement in that area, but it would be nice to have somebody who can really kind of fulfill that role when the Jays aren't playing, or even when they are, to just not be, relying so much on those two and so heavily on them, because I think that that's definitely still a need and an area of improvement for them.
Yeah, no question. Especially after last night, like it appears that Jalen has broken his face.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy, and
Yeah,
like it's like I mean like that was probably the worst news that we could have received like in the middle of that game. It's like, are you serious right now? Like, oh, Jalen's unlikely to return, and it's like, come on, like this is so like this is just like so unfortunate that this would happen right now.
I know, and as you said, like we've been having injury issues for the past
Yeah,
6 weeks or so.
Marcus
Um,
Smart. I mean, it'd be nice if
yeah.
he came
Oh
back.
my! I can't believe that he's been out for so long, Mark. Like usually, Marcus
Yeah.
for these types of injuries is back quick. Like if you remember the Eastern Conference Finals, I think it was Game 3 in Boston
Hmm.
against the Heat. Looks
I
like
think
he's
so.
snapped his ankle in half, and he's back the same game. Hits a corner
I'm
three.
like, dude, like what? Like, are you okay? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, he misses one game and then he's back for the rest of the playoffs. So I do like I've been saying, I think that they've realized how important not that they weren't aware before, but just how important Marcus Smart is. Like the team is just, especially on, like it's interesting. Defensive player of the year. He's been so good on defense for so long, but now offensively, he's kind of like the key to really taking them from being a solid offense to being one of the best offenses in the league, which is why I think that their offense has been kind of struggled of late, among other reasons like Hauser not making shots, but and Grant being in a slump. But Marcus being out, Rob's missed some games. Al's not playing back to backs. Even Jalen missed games with the adductor. That's why Tatum's fourth in the NBA in total minutes right now, is because he's just carrying these guys.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's such a good point too, because it's like they're relying on Tatum to play so many minutes every game now because they don't feel like they have another choice. So getting somebody else in who can kind of help carry some of the load, not like obviously like a huge like star kind of player, but just somebody who like can kind of help facilitate some things and help carry some of that load so Tatum doesn't have to play as many minutes would be ideal right now.
Yeah, that's 100% what we're looking for. The tricky thing is that everybody's looking for them, and if they're on the buyout market, how good of a player are they really? My dream scenario would be Gordon Hayward getting bought out by the Hornets. I know he hasn't been healthy, but you get him on the Malcolm Brogdon program, get him 12, 15 minutes a game, try and break the curse, the injury curse that he succumbed when he moved to Boston.
Because we all know how good Gordon Hayward can be, because we saw it. Like if we could get Utah Gordon Hayward or like some portion of that without like, if he's healthy and we get kind of a semblance of that, I think that that's good enough.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for. Jayshawn Tate from the Rockets was a guy that I was hoping they were going to trade for. He probably doesn't get bought out. He's only making $7 million. Yeah. So yeah, it would be interesting to see. I know like Patrick Beverley's out there. We're kind of looking for someone a bit taller, someone that can maybe actually play make a little bit. I know I hate Patrick Beverley, but I think if he was on the Celtics, he would probably endear himself to the Celtics faithful pretty quickly. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see who we're able to pick up.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think they will be active on the buyout market, and I think they will get somebody. And if they get somebody on the buyout market, then this team is looking pretty damn good going forward, because we know that obviously they can carry themselves, as they showed last night. I think the depth was really tested last night against the Sixers. And they showed up and they got it done. Like we mentioned, Blake Griffin, I think obviously, acquiring Malcolm Brogdon is one of the best things that Brad Stevens has done in his time here. I love him. He's fantastic off the bench, but they showed that they, can win those types of games, and they showed that they do have depth and they do have players who can kind of step up when they need to. So that's why I'm glad they didn't clear out some of those younger players that do come off the bench. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I think that they will utilize the buyout market and get somebody through that to kind of help us really feel confident in what they have going out there. But what were we gonna say?
I was gonna say, I think we get a buyout guy, and everybody, the Celtics, we need the All-Star break. Everybody needs a week off, especially Jason Tatum.
Yes.
Get Marcus back. Yeah, like we can. Like I know he's playing the 38, 39 minutes. I don't even remember how many minutes he played last night, but like he needs a break. Everybody needs a break. Come back after the off season, and as you said, like season. We're under 30 games to go, right? So like, about a quarter of the season to go. It's time to start tightening the screws, ramping up, hopefully push for the 1 seed. It looks like it's going to be a race between us and the Bucks. Now that the Sixers
with the moves the Bucks made too, that's gonna be interesting now, because the Bucks made some moves that I think
Crowder
make them better. Yeah, Crowder I think is a good fit there too.
Yeah, for sure. So I know, no question. I think that it's adding a rotation player. We'll see. He hasn't played basketball all year. But yeah, I've always kind of seen the East as a 2-team race between the Celtics and the Bucks. I don't take the Sixers seriously, as seen by last night.
I never do.
Yeah, right. Like we won. The fact that we won with like no Jalen, no Marcus. Yeah, especially in the playoffs. Come on, no chance. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I think it's going to come down to the Celtics and Bucks for the 1 seed. Hopefully the Celtics do get it. I do firmly believe the Celtics are the more talented team at face value, in terms of the depth and in terms of what they have going for them over there. So hopefully that happens. But I do have one more question for you before we wrap this up, because this has been a topic of conversation all season and I am curious your thoughts on it. Based on the way that everything's going right now, do you think that Jason Tatum is the MVP?
Oh, man, it is a crazy year for MVP. Like
It is. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
that's what I've loved so much about this NBA season has been like the top level talent has been out of control. Like you've got Jokic, Embiid, Tatum, Giannis, KD before he got injured, like Donovan Mitchell in the first part of the season as well. But like those top guys have just been at such a ridiculous level. It's been so much fun to watch. This is what, again, Tatum needs the rest. Like you can tell like his play and his efficiency has started to dip with how much of a load he's carrying, and that part is to do with
Mhm.
the other guys missing time and the team not looking as good. He's like just grinding out these wins, and that's what I love about Tatum is that he doesn't care about the splits, whatever. He just wants to be out there playing, trying to help us win in any way possible. Like last night, the shooting wasn't there, but he's rebounding, he's playmaking. Almost gets the triple double last night. I think it's going to be hard for him to win. I think just because you've got Jokic, Embiid, Giannis, and Tatum, all four of them are going to have such a good case for
Yeah.
the MVP. I do think it's Giannis is coming. He's been so good the last kind of like few weeks, and now that the Bucks
Mhm.
are kind of like right there, um, I hope Tatum wins it. But what I love as well, he's like, I don't really care about the MVP this year.
Yeah, he's
It's all
team
about
oriented.
yeah, and that's what I love about him. I think earlier in his career, he was as any young kid, 21-year-old wants to be an all star, wants to be an MVP, but coming into this season, he's like, if we win, I'm going to get awards. That's what happened last season. We were the best team for the second half of the year, first team All NBA. Marcus Smart wins Defensive Player of the Year. So like understanding if we win, I'll be recognized for it. I don't think he's going to win the MVP, unfortunately. But again, he's only 24 years old.
Yeah.
It's crazy that he's still like not in his prime yet.
Isn't
So
that
he'll
ridiculous to think about, but super
it's
exciting at the same time?
absurd. But between him and Luca being 23 and 24, they'll both win an MVP at some point. But I'm not sure it's going to be this year.
Yeah, I definitely am with you. I think obviously, them winning an NBA championship is more important to him right now than winning the MVP because he has so much more time to do that. Obviously we hope. And so I think, he might not win it this year, but if he doesn't, I would take the Celtics finally winning the
Oh
whole
yeah,
thing and winning their first NBA finals since 2008 over him winning the MVP any day now.
please.
Like
We need
honestly,
it.
like that's what we need more right
We
now. And
need
I
it.
think obviously, people recognize Tatum's talent. So even if he doesn't win the MVP, it's not like people are gonna be like,
No.
like Tatum's not as good as people say. Like people
Oh yeah.
know how good of a player
Oh
Tatum
yeah.
is.
Oh, he's going to be first team All NBA again. He'll be
Yeah,
in the top 5 MVP. Like he was what I think he was 6th in MVP voting last year. The fact that we've now got one of these guys that's going to be perennially first team, second team All NBA in the midst of the MVP conversation year in year out. That's all you can ever dream of as a fan. Because to win a title, you need one of those guys, and we've got one.
exactly. I'm with you on that for sure. Yes, I definitely enjoyed having you on the show. This was fantastic. Before we close out, I definitely want you to get a chance to promote your podcast, tell people where they can follow it, where they can follow you.
Of course, I appreciate us. Thank you so much for having me on. Like always fun to come on and talk hoops with a fellow Celtics fan. But yeah, follow us. I'm at Jake Issenberg on Twitter, and I repost all of our first to the floor stuff. We're part of the Celtics blog podcast or content network, and then I also do a podcast called At Backdoor Cut, where we do a bit more broad NBA stuff. That's just another one as well. But yeah, follow me at Jake Eisenberg. You'll see everything. Come join, talk Celtics, and yeah, appreciate it.
Jake's great. Definitely recommend following him, checking out his content, checking out his podcast. It's really, really fantastic basketball content. So I really appreciate you coming on the show and joining me. Always a pleasure to talk with other Celtics fans. I'll definitely have to get you on the show again at some point too.
Can't wait. Appreciate it.
Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in as always. I really appreciate you all joining and tuning into the show. Enjoy the Super Bowl this weekend. It should be a good game. I have the Chiefs winning in a really close game, but we will see what happens. I hope you all have a great rest of your week and weekend, and I will talk to you all next time.